get it, we'll roll at her. And she slams it home deep.
Very good. All right. Always righto. Righto, righto, righto. Turn every, doesn't matter what happens, the next play is everything for us.
Hello, everyone. This is Bobby Valentine, Executive Director of Athletics at Sacred Heart University, and we have lunch with Bobby today. And I have four wonderful guests from our athletics department who are going to share some of their life's experiences and also some of their duties at Sacred Heart with you. I beg you, if you're watching this program and you're on your computer, to look at the bios of these spectacular people so that I don't have to waste a lot of your time by telling you just how spectacular they all are. But let me first introduce to you Megan Miller, our Senior Assistant Athletic Director. She's our SWA at school. She's our NC2A Compliance Director. She wears many hats, but basically she's our COO. She runs the department, and it would not run without her. She's with us today, and also we're going to have our assistant women's volleyball coach, Kim Rolliter's here. Kim's a spectacular person, still a spectacular athlete from Pasadena, California, where she excelled in volleyball through her high school career. Went on to USC, that's the West Coast USC, Southern California, where she took or helped her team get to two Final Four championships in volleyball, and she's been with us since 2012 and runs one of the largest women's volleyball camps in the country. We have our spectacular student athlete with us today, and Gianna Scaletti's here. She's 6'3". She kills it on the court and off the court. She's exemplifies what a student athlete should be and what we want them to be. And also we have a guy who's been with us now in his 7th year, I guess, or 8th year as our head men's lacrosse coach, Jonathan Basti's here. Jonathan excelled in the sport at Fairfield, where he got his education also, master's in undergrad. We got him from Hartford, where he was an assistant head coach for 4 years, and he took our lacrosse team to the semifinals for the first time ever in school history. He's doing a great job. So let's just get right on with the program. The program's about being a student athlete and being a pioneer, and there's a lot in the makings of that. And let me just start by bringing on Megan Miller, who is going to put on her compliance hat first and kind of tell everyone out there about the right of entry to being a Division I student athlete at Sacred Heart University. Take it, Meg.
Hey, Bobby, thanks. So kind of where my role is in recruiting a student athlete and becoming part of the Pioneer family is being that behind the scenes liaison with coaches, prospective student athletes, parents, and getting them through the NCAA eligibility center, a certification standpoint to make sure they're eligible. And then also whether or not they're visiting campus, doing all the paperwork for a student there, as well as answering any questions, whether or not it's Sacred Heart related, student athlete related, what they can do while they're here as a student athlete and what experiences they can have, and pretty much guiding them through a prospective student athlete to then joining the Sacred Heart family as a student athlete, and then eventually as they graduate and move on, like Gianna is now, seeing that come through fruition on the back end of things and being the part of it, but not really being the person behind the curtain, basically making sure everything works smoothly and there's little to no road bumps along the way.
Well, there are so many qualifications that some of the guidelines are actually Sacred Heart guidelines. You have a little Reader's Digest version of what it takes to get into Sacred Heart University.
So Sacred Heart, we are a test optional institution. So when we look at testing from the SATs or ACTs, a student could submit them. And the difference between Sacred Heart and the NCAA is we require them from an NCAA standpoint. And then admissions department looks at transcripts, looks for pretty solid students, well-rounded students, what they're doing extracurricularly wise in their communities. And then NCAA wise, you have to have a minimum of a 2.3 GPA, standard across all Division I sports, and there's a sliding scale. And then a minimum of 16 core classes. And I won't get into the specifics because all that stuff is online. But only looking at what classes from a math, science, English, and social studies look like.
Actually supervising during their stay at Sacred Heart?
We supervise all 900 of the student athletes because we have to go through a certification process at the end of every semester. We manage anywhere from over 1,000 prospective student athletes at a time between all our sports, and seeing if a recruit fits the Division I model, and if it doesn't, then adding another student athlete, a prospective student athlete to the list, and redoing the whole process all over again for each prospective student athlete.
Yeah, not much work being done there. In your department, I know you work hand in hand with Megan, getting the prospective student athletes enrolled in our school and onto your team, but not 900 ladies on your team, but you do have quite a few. And how does that recruiting process work on your end? Yeah, you gotta get muted.
I know, I didn't unmute it. We've been sitting here forever. Hey, Bobby, thanks for having me on. So from our end, we do carry a little bit of a larger roster. And typically we start to recruit players 2 to 3 years out of graduation. So if they're going to say graduate in 2020 of May, we will start recruiting them or looking at them when they're in between their sophomore and junior year. And that process pretty much continues all the way through their senior year. So we're going to have, a roster of about 23, I believe it is this year. And we fill those positions as those positions are needed. And it's a lot of work. We have to go out on the road to the different tournaments and evaluate talent and get in touch with them when the time is right. Obviously, all compliance, which for us in our sport, we can talk to players after June 15th of their sophomore year. And that's kind of when we open up communication. And we can then bring them on campus as juniors and or seniors. And that's just kind of how the process goes. But a lot of it is just we have to go out and find them. And then we have to start to cultivate that relationship to get them on the team.
Finding a beautiful killer volleyball player who's now on our screen. And recruited. How was it that you actually recruited and found Gianna?
So Gianna wrote us an email, and it was kind of coupled with us going out and then her also having interest. So after seeing her and then her relaying interest to us, we then made the decision to go and watch her play in high school. When I was recruiting her, the rules were different. She was a little bit younger, and we were allowed to do that at the time. Now we are a little bit more restricted, but we basically watched her in high school. I watched her in, I think, 1 or 2 tournaments her junior year. And I can actually vividly remember that match. I was sitting there, and she took a couple swings, and it was, I think, that second swing that I was like, okay, if she can do that once, we can make her do that and teach her how to do that over and over again. So it just, head coach Rob gave me the green light with her. So he was like, I want you to go out and really tell me what we're doing. And I saw her take those couple swings, and I was like, that's it. We want her. Brought her on campus for a visit, and the rest is history because she's sitting here and she's going to graduate.
That's spectacular. There's an old baseball man named Branch that broke the color barrier with the Brooklyn Dodgers by bringing Jackie Robinson in. And one of his great teachers was that if you see a guy hit a ball 500 feet, he has power. The job of the coach is to have him do it more often than once. And
sure.
Gianna, you've been able to do that repeatedly throughout your collegiate career. It's been spectacular for me to watch you grow and develop. But can you remember the first time that you were scouted by Sacred Heart during your high school days?
Hi, Bobby. Thanks for having me on. Yeah, I can remember it. Like Kim said, there was emails exchanged between both of us, and she and Rob did come out to a high school game, which was really nice. They didn't need to do that. They made the effort to drive all the way up to Westboro, Massachusetts. They came, like Kim said, to a couple of club matches, and I remember them we both had interest, and I ended up going to campus and doing an overnight my junior year, and stayed with some of the girls on the team and basically got a whole experience a day in the life of an athlete. We woke up, got up early to go to practice, went to lift, had lunch with the girls, and then just went to class, got the full experience.
Well, that experience that you had is part of is a wonderful team culture that Rob and Kim develop while you're a student athlete. Can you explain to us a little about how that culture actually comes to being?
Our culture is very special, and I'm really proud to say that I've been part of it for these past 4 years. Coach and Kim do a really good job of just giving the girls accountability and letting us have an open space to say, these are things that we want to work on. Can you help us with this? And they're there to help us with no matter what they need. They do a really great job of it being like a real teaching program where, like, for example, I was an athlete in high school that I didn't necessarily know my full potential and technically things that I needed to work on, and they took me and they really molded me. And I learned things in the college that I had no idea that I didn't even know. So they do a really good job of that. And it's just an awesome culture. All of the girls are super great. Everyone works really hard every day. It's just a great thing to be part of.
Learning things. How have you developed as a student, and how has Tammy Petroselli and our athletic academic department help you grow as an honor roll student?
We have a great support staff. That's probably one of my favorite things that we have at Sacred Heart. We have people in the Student Success Center up in the pit that are always there to help you make your schedule, or if you're struggling in a class, they can help you, give you a tutor. There's endless resources that you can have, which is awesome. That's a great experience. There's a whole study hall dedicated to athletes, and that's just a great place where the students can go, take out your books, and just quietly get to work. So there's a lot of resources that we have, and I'm really thankful for that.
Jonathan, we're talking about recruiting, and you are one of the most hands-on recruiting coaches that we have in our department. And the world has changed a little right here as we're speaking, and you're undergoing some adjustments, which we teach as coaches that you must be able to adjust. how are you adjusting to the new world of recruiting where you're not going to be as hands-on as you once were? And you have to hit that mute button, John. Boom, right there.
Boom.
You got it.
There we go.
Yeah.
But thanks. You'd think I'd realize that by now with the new world that we're in. But I just want to thank you for having me today. I actually one of my friends dared me to come on with the nose, mustache, and glasses thing on, but I couldn't find one in time, so I don't have that. But
John, you already have the nose and mustache, man.
Thanks. Yeah, I know. Thank you. I actually have that hat too that you were wearing, so I was gonna try to dig that out. But the world has changed, obviously, for many reasons, and I think you said it straight up. It's assess, adapt, and overcome. And I think that's, Kim talked about culture, and Gianna talked about culture. I think that for us, culture is everything, right? So culture in our program is the be all and end all. And the reason why is because every year things change and the players change. For the most part, you guys got guys coming in, going out. But the one thing that never changes is the culture. The one thing that never changes is how we treat each other and how we expect to treat the people in our lives. And so that plays into recruiting. And so that's the same, that hasn't changed. That still is part of what we do. And we could still do that. And with the fact that you can see, you have such accessibility to kids now online with videos through YouTube or through Huddle, you could still get a pretty decent look at a kid and what you think that they can project on the field. Probably the most trying part of this whole thing, which we don't know how long this is going to go, we don't know how far this is going to go, is going to be actually sitting down and meeting these kids. Because for me, and for us, and for most coaches, I believe, that's where you figure out whether or not somebody can fit your culture. Players, it doesn't matter if you can figure out a player. You can teach a guy, as long as they're willing to be part of something bigger than themselves. You can teach people and athletes to fit your system. But that culture piece is really what makes the difference. Having them understand that this is what you're buying into when you come to a program like ours. And every program's different. Our culture is different than another team's culture. And that's what I think makes us special. And what makes us great is that's what we recruit. We recruit our culture. And so that's probably going to be one of the biggest issues that we have, at least in the near time. But I'm pretty confident that we'll be able to figure it out, and we'll move forward, and we'll continue moving forward. And we're lucky enough to where we are right now in our 2021 class. We're in a really good spot, and we are also in a very different situation than Kim in volleyball, because all of our players have an extra year of eligibility now. And so that also plays into what we are going to do in our recruiting classes going forward. The type of kids, like whether the number per class, and kind of the conversations we're going to have with guys on our own team. So that recruiting is going to change very much in the next 3 or 4 years, until this whole group of guys that were on our team that had that extra year, until they moved out and kind of matriculated and kind of moved on to getting on with their lives after college. But there are going to be some tricky things that we're going to have to deal with, but we'll figure it out. We'll move along, and we'll just keep going forward.
John mentioned a lot of the change that our coaches are dealing with now are new regulations that the spring sport athletes do, in fact, have another year, and that there's a one and done situation that all teams are going to be able to deal with around the NCAA. You want to tell some of our viewers some of the new regs that our teams and schools around the country are going to be dealing with?
Yeah, so a lot of it has to do with how the spring ended. Obviously, in the news, everyone's probably heard that spring sports get their season back, and what that actually means, and the details in that, and how it all shakes out. And I think right now we're still all trying to figure out how it fits on our campuses, and how it fits within leagues. And there's some schools that have chosen to do fifth years. But it changes how the model of recruiting goes for those spring sports and how they get through that, and how it all works. On the front, from a recruiting side, I mean, all virtual communications are considered telephone calls. So we have to follow telephone guidelines, and where you would think it would be easy to do, we still have to stay within the lines of the NCAA and figure out, okay, this is something that we would have done on campus, and how do we just take it and translate it to where we are in right now. We have a dead period right now for all sports, both from an athletic standpoint. So current students can't be on campuses working out. They can't send coaches videos of how their workouts are going. So checking in with current student athletes is probably stressful for both the student athlete and the coach, because you don't know how each other are doing in the physical sense. But then also for recruits, none of the coaches can go out on the road. So that change of how to do it, like John and Kim were talking about, it is changing how athletics as a whole functions, and what it all means for right now, but also how does that change moving forward, and what does it look like in a new era post-corona or COVID-19, and does it allow us to have different things moving forward, and maybe it's a change in rules on what's to come.
I know you adjust and adapt as well as anyone, and you and Rob work together as a team, as well as any team that we have on campus. But one of the things you really get involved with is the Nike camps that we've had. And there's probably going to be an adjustment there too. How do you see the camp situation moving forward here this next year?
I agree with John. It's accept and adjust. That's really what we have to do. Same thing with Megan. They're just changing, and that's matter of fact. I do think as the situation improves and either restrictions or bans are lifted, in my opinion, and just kind of hearing the buzz around me, I think kids are itching to get back into the gym, or they're even itching just to get back to playing a sport. And, whether or not we can have X amount of kids in the gym, if we can have that same number outside, then we're going to adjust in that way. We want to give every opportunity we can to these players. They committed to a club season number one, because that's how we recruit. That got cut short, and they also commit every summer to play. And we just feel like it's our responsibility to give them that opportunity if we can. If they say you can have 20 kids in the gym, we'll have 20, first 20, first come, first serve. It just, and I have a little sister too, and I feel for her, and her season gets cut short too. And she plays volleyball in college, and it's just, this is what we do. And Gianna can speak to that. We've grown up playing this sport. John, your kids, they grew up playing this sport. And for someone to say, sorry, you can't do it, it's hard. It's what you're supposed to feel as a graduating senior when you're told you can't play anymore. And they kind of got a taste of that a little bit earlier. Camps are up in the air. I'm going to be honest. I do feel like there's going to be something. I do think we're going to be able to offer something. And I'm just excited to be able to give that opportunity and work with kids again. So.
Gianna, what is it that you miss the most about not being with your teammates and on the hard court?
Yeah, definitely. As now I'm a senior, so I've done this past fall, but the girls on your team, they become like your family. You wake up, you see them every morning, you go to travel long weekends with them, you have 8 hours bus rides to Robert Morris, and you guys just get close together in that way. So not seeing them every day is tough, but we definitely adjust. We have all of our social media like Snapchat and stuff, but we do Zoom calls, FaceTime. We still are in contact every day.
Any physical activity going on? Do you have your own workout program at the house that I'm sure you're staying in shape, even though you're not going to be playing.
Yeah, so I do a lot. My family was lucky they have a cycling bike. I do that, but I know the girls on the team, they were provided a workout packet by our strength coach, so they're working hard with that. There's some practices that Kim filmed of herself that she provided for the girls, so maybe if they wanted to get into it, they could try to practice themselves. So it's important for them in the off season just to get touches in and just making sure that they're physically active as much as possible.
Yes, Josh, your guys are on the same program given out by Chris Fee, who does a spectacular job with our strength and conditioning program. But how about the technical side of it? You're really limited on how much you can do on the internet and through your Zoom. How do you think the players are either going to regress or improve during this period?
Well, I feel like that when you're dealing with the technical side of any sport or anything, there has to be instruction. But in a situation like this, a lot of it is self-motivation. And that comes, I think that's also part of, I don't hate to keep going back to it, but culture. Culture, it's like part of what you are as a student athlete is you're self-motivated. I mean, Gianna wouldn't have gotten to where she was and where she is if she didn't want to do that and didn't want to constantly improve. And it's the same thing with any of our guys. And so, yeah, we're providing what we can provide. And Coach Fee is tremendous in what he does with trying to help our guys and trying to get our guys in a position to where they're going to be ready to come back in the fall whenever we can get back. But we've been doing something similar to what Kim's been doing. You know, we've been providing them with, hey, if you have time, check this out. We're not making them do it. We're not allowed to. But what we've been doing is giving them the opportunity to, if they want to do this, if they're interested in, here's some things you can do. And again, the internet is a crazy place. It's also a pretty cool place to be because there's such great videos out there. You can watch games from any era, from any year, NCAA games, regular games. You can watch all of our games. Huddle's an unbelievable tool that every single person in the entire in NCAA lacrosse has access to every single game from every single team for the last 4 years. And so if you want to just go watch a game, you can do that with the professional leagues having the ability to watch games and stream games. So you can do those things. And so there's a lot of ways that you can improve mentally and IQ wise, which that's kind of what we've been focusing on over the last few weeks between us as a staff trying to do what we can to get better, to improve and to adjust and to move forward and to learn, and doing a lot of professional development that way, but also trying to put that on our guys too, to be like, listen, this is a really great opportunity for you to get better. This is a great opportunity for you to use what we learned this year in the struggles and the positive and negative conflicts that we had this year during our season and improve. What self-improvement, team improvement, what can we do to make us better and be the best version of ourselves that we can be? And that's what is going to help us next year when we come back in the fall, whenever that is. God willing, it's when we start school and we can start practice right away. That will be probably the best day. Like my guys, we've got into watching the Jersey Shore a lot in my house recently. So the best day of my life, as Paulie D would say. That will be one of the best days, just getting back on the field professionally. That'll be a lot of fun, and we're really looking forward to that.
Whenever that day is, it's of ultimate concern to everyone around, including the commissioner of the NEC and the entire NC2A. And Megan, maybe you want to just share a little on how our conference has stayed in touch with each other and how we're trying to plan, to the best of our knowledge, on how we're going to come back.
Yeah, so our conference is a pretty amazing conference. We have a great commissioner, Noreen Morris, that is on the council as Division I. And then we have Lisa Archibald, who's on the legislative council. So we get pretty regular updates, if not daily. We have an athletic director and a SWA call twice a week, a compliance call once a week. So we're really in the know of, as the information hits the interwebs, we're getting that as well to work through information. And I think it's still a little bit unknown of what it looks like right now, because every state is coming out with their own plan. And we kind of have to find where, from a governmental standpoint, everyone is, and then how does that fit into NCAA sports. And we have tons of different scenarios of, if we come back right away, what does it look like? Does it mean that we can only have small group practices with people? How does a whole building work function-wise with athletic training and strength and conditioning, getting 100 football players ready for practice all at the same time to be at practice an hour later? What does that look like? And while still trying to maintain any distancing that we have to. And I think those are the questions that we're starting to now really get into, and because we've kind of we've already hit that plateau, and a lot of the states are coming off of it. So gearing up on what's going on from that standpoint. And like the state of Connecticut, May 20th is a kind of a big day for us, where some businesses are now allowed to reopen. And I think that's the telltale sign that we're going to be able to move forward. We just really don't know yet what it's going to look like totally. But I think we're moving in the right direction, and forming some task force within our department to figure out, from a Sacred Heart's perspective, what that looks like for our students. So that way, when they do return to campus, there's not too many bumps in the road, and getting that message out on what we're doing differently.
I'm sure that your student athletes are desiring a lot of information. They need information. As John said, they can get instruction on their own on the internet. And three of the things that we like to do as coaches at Sacred Heart is we like to instruct, we like to inform, and we like to inspire. And I guess you must be spending a lot of your time informing your student athletes as to what's really going on, because, you know, they probably wake up every morning wondering, hey, what's going on? How are you communicating with your student athletes?
That for me? Sorry, yes. I didn't hear the beginning part.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we've kind of similar with what Gianna said, we've built up a very good culture that the girls are very responsible, and they make sure that they are keeping themselves just honestly informed in everything. They have to take care of academics. They have to take care of their workouts. They have to do all this stuff. So what we do is we try and make sure that as information comes out to us, whether that's from Megan or from the state, some of them are different states, they're Florida or California, but we just really try and make sure that they're on the same page as everything else as it's changing so quickly. And that's honestly a big part of us leaning on our captains. And again, our culture has been built up over these last 8 or 9 years that I've been here, to the point where I don't worry about our girls being prepared for the next step. And that's a hard thing to do, but Gianna can probably attest to this. We do put a lot of onus on them, and they do a great job of staying in touch with the team and the core on a regular basis. And then Coach and I obviously stay in touch with them when some of those bigger things are starting to happen, and or if there's something that I personally just need to talk to them about. So, you know, it's a work in progress. Me and Rob really do a good job of making sure we're in the know of stuff. We communicate every single day, which is good, you know, but we have to. It's just that's where we're at. You know, you can't take a day off. You can't like forget to check your email. You have no idea. May 20th is what we're all wanting, you know, to happen so fast. And, you know, what if it happens sooner? That'd be great. So, you know, it's just being responsible. We've worked hard to have a responsible group to make sure that they stay, like I said, stay on top of their stuff, that they're knowledgeable of what's going on, and that they shouldn't be surprised at the next step. They shouldn't be surprised with the next decision. And that's a commitment that they make to our program, that if they're going to be with us and on our team, they follow in our lead and our direction and how we're going to run stuff. So.
If I could have you go back a second and think about when you were a freshman, and think about some of those questions that you had, some of those doubts, some of those, I wonder how this is going to work out. Do you remember the top 2 or 3 real troubling situations that you had to straighten out as you became a student athlete at Sacred Heart University?
Yeah, I think a big thing is when you're playing in high school and then you're going to go play at a Division I college, you don't really necessarily understand how hard it's going to be going into it. So I think I thought everything was going to be like super fun, everything was going to be great every day, and I think I had questions of like what's it going to be like overall, but it is hard, and I think that's what makes it so great. But I think just it's hard, and it's something that you have to learn and experience every day. I remember freshman year, it's kind of like what's happening to me right now. A lot of things are happening. You got practice, you have lifts. Maybe you've never like seriously been lifting before. You're immersed in a group of 18 girls that you haven't met before. So there's a lot of questions like that. How am I going to manage my schoolwork while traveling far away on the weekends? Just trying to piece your life together and see what it's going to take and stuff like that.
You and I got to Sacred Heart basically at the same time, and that idea of many of the student athletes hadn't lifted before. Our strength and conditioning program was basically non-existent. Today, it's world class. And how is it that the freshmen get to become part of that program of regiment and discipline?
Well, I mean, I want to address the first thing you said. Probably the most important and best change. There's been a lot of changes here in the last 7 years since we got here, right? And they've all been awesome. Like, we are a destination. We are now a program and an athletic department that people want to come and be a part of. And the thing that I noticed from year 1 to year 2 when Coach Fee showed up was that was probably the biggest change that this athletic department has ever gotten, other than the fact when your building was finished and this became an athletics only building, the Pitt Center. Adding Coach Fee and his staff was probably the best thing that you ever did since you've been here. And that's from my perspective. And again, you've done so many we've all done a lot of great things, Coach, but you've really kind of pushed everything forward. But adding Coach Fee was monumental in so many different ways. And
when the freshmen have to get into that lifting program,
right,
strength and conditioning program, how is it that they adapt and adjust?
It's that I think that comes from many different ways. That comes from you preparing them and us preparing them before they even get here, to make them understand, listen, this is what you're going to be coming into. This is part of our culture. This is part of what we do. And that's also part of recruiting. You recruit the kids that want to do that are willing to do it. We lift at 7 a.m. 3 days a week, all year round, pretty much. And so you have to understand that there's a purpose to that. And that's explained to them in the recruiting process. And then we kind of walk them through it as they get closer and closer to coming in freshman year. And then the first 2 weeks with Coach Fee are kind of an orientation program, but they've already been oriented to it through our team and through the upperclassmen. Our guys on their own, all on their own accord, they set up lifting groups over the summer, and they help each other out, and they communicate with each other, and they help each other kind of deal with questions and deal with things and coach each other through what they're going to have to handle once they get here. In our program, the weight room is probably the most important room in the entire building. And that's because that's where you really learn. You can't hide in the weight room. You can't. That's where you really learn to struggle. And that's where you really learn where to be comfortable being uncomfortable. And if you're going to be a successful student athlete at this level, you have to consistently understand that you are going to have to be comfortable being uncomfortable. And Coach Fee puts our guys in a really good position to do that. But that's also our players helping each other out and coaching each other through it from the second they commit to us, or the second that they're allowed to start getting into the summer process after the season's over. It's building that mindset of, this is what you're going to have to handle, but we're here to help you. You're not on an island. You're not alone. We are here for you. We're here to help you. We're going to walk you through it. And certain guys kind of come along quicker than others. And so you got to try to deal with that too. But it's really an entire team process, from us as a coaching staff, the players, Coach Fee and his staff. It's everybody pitching in to try to help these kids get ready.
You mentioned how the seniors get another year. How about the freshmen who came with such great expectation? They got into the program. They did the work in the weight room. They got their grades up, but they were met with nothing but frustration and disappointment without playing their freshman season. How are you helping them cope with that disappointment?
We've had a saying since this whole thing started in our program, Coach, and it's hunt the good, and that's what we've been doing. We've been hunting the good anywhere we can. And the thing that I will say about that is, in our program, these guys know if you deserve it, you're going to play. If you've earned it, you're going to play. And so, as a freshman, when you come in, it's no different than any other year. The positive thing about it is, even though they got their season, the whole team got their season cut short, but it's kind of like an extended fall ball almost. It was an extended time for us to figure some things out as a program on how we can adjust, adapt, and get better going forward. And I'll tell you something, it's been like, looking back at it now, when it first happened, it was gut wrenching. But after a few weeks in dealing with it, I mean, I said to my son Dom this morning at like 9:30, I would probably be at team breakfast right now, hopefully, God willing, be at team breakfast right now, getting ready for the NEC championship game tomorrow. I mean, that's what, every single team in the NEC is saying that right now. Every coach and every player is saying, I would have been getting ready for the championship game tomorrow. And so we have been given a tremendous opportunity to assess our situation, adapt to our surroundings, and overcome any problems that we had this season and become better. And so we've been hunting the good as much as we can. And those freshmen are no different than the sophomores or the juniors and the seniors. It's about, what are you willing to do to make yourself and the team better? And that's not going to change regardless of what happened last year. And so if they earn it, they're going to get it.
We love hunting the good, John. That's good stuff. And, Meg, some of the things that you have to deal with are the numbers, what we're dealing with scholarship, what we're dealing with rosters. One of the numbers that is a moving target right now is how many of those seniors are actually thinking about returning to play their senior year because their spring sports were canceled. And how about telling the viewers, if they all came back, what that would look like financially for the university, and maybe roster-wise for our teams, and realistically what we're projecting to be the real case scenario.
So we did a little exercise when it first occurred and just asked the student athletes that were going to be graduating and moving on because they exhausted their eligibility and now have the opportunity to come back. And it was almost about 100 students with around $1 million in athletic scholarships that could have can be re-awarded based upon the rules that the NCAA produced for us. In reality, we have student athletes that already had job offers before they entered their spring season and are moving on to trying to figure out if they really do want to come back, but also as a coach, do we want everyone back? Because coaches are grooming the next student athlete, and how does that affect the rest of the culture that built over the last years as you moved everyone into the spot? So right now, we currently have about 45 students that are still interested in coming back. It kind of depends upon what happens as we get closer and closer to you as a university making a decision what we're doing from a financial standpoint. And right now it's hovering around about $650,000 in athletic scholarships. So it really will depend upon ultimately of who we can bring back and how much money we need to do so.
You know, team, we've had a lot of our viewers send in some questions. So we're going to kind of just shoot around now and answer some of the questions from some of our alums, some of the people who have been on this webcast. And, you know, rather than just going around the horn, let me just say to Gianna, what was it like? This question came in to get to that exciting point of winning a conference championship game and getting to that NCAA tournament.
I love that question. That was probably like the highlight of my volleyball career and life. We worked so hard as a team, our coaching staff, the weight room, our athletic trainers, everyone as a program, Megan. So to get to that point was amazing for everyone because everyone's hard work. We did it. We finally made it. I was lucky to go to 3 championships, and unfortunately we lost the first 2. So winning that last one senior year was awesome. And then getting the chance to go to the NCAA tournament to play #1 seed Baylor was amazing. Playing against those group of athletes was amazing. And it was good just to go into that game feeling prepared. Our coaches did a great job of saying, this is what it's going to be like. You need to understand that from preseason and then pretend that you're practicing against Texas every day. So you are prepared to go into those big moments. So it was a really good experience.
And you all did us so proud. It was such a wonderful run by our women's volleyball team. And Kim, I have a question here from one of our viewers who says, if a female high school athlete, volleyball player, wanted to send you a video, how long should that video be? How specific should it be of their skills? And do you also want to meet the player herself with a little social banter on the video?
That's actually a good question. And, you know, it does kind of depend on, in my opinion, the position a little bit. You know, liberos have a hard time sending a lot of film just because they are a little restricted in what they can do. So when you are looking at that position specifically, the more athletic they can look, the better. But kind of going across the board, and that's for anyone sending it, but going across the board, I would say about a 2-minute clip if you're introducing yourself. If this is the first time I've ever seen you play and you really just want me to see some of your best moments, I would say for sure no longer than 2, just because, as we all know, with this age and with technology, I get a ton of emails. And I need to see something, especially at the very beginning, that's going to make me watch more. Introducing yourself is fine. I definitely would like to see like the full face, make sure you have your jersey number in it. Sometimes it's tough if it's a far away shot and I don't know what number you are. But really just showing me from the get-go, here's my position. This is how athletic I look when I'm doing some of my skills. And then, you know, throwing in game tape is always a good thing. So a short combination, 2 minutes, some skill work, some match play. And with the match play, which everyone's different, I prefer to see longer clips. So if I watch a match and I see cut, I can tell those are all from different parts of the game. If I see you do 3 or 4 plays in a row, whether or not you touch the ball, I'd prefer to see that. I think a lot of players feel like, well, I can't show them I hit out of bounds, or I can't show them I got blocked. Gianna can tell you about getting blocked, but it doesn't matter if you're touching the ball or not. I want to see you be athletic. I want to see you move. I watch kids shag when I go to tournaments, I'm going to be honest, because if I don't like the way they run, I don't know if I'm going to like the way they move on the court. So I kind of have my eye for stuff, but 2 minutes, short and sweet for the first one, and then once we get to know each other, I might ask for more.
I had a similar question to you. It's just that what is the advice you would give to a young student athlete about becoming a Division I lacrosse player? What is it he should be working on his own to develop the skills that you're looking for?
It's about the individual. Right now, it's about individual skills and fundamentals. And that's something that I can even go back to when you asked the question about what we're doing with our guys and what we're instructing our guys to do. It's about your individual skills and fundamentals. What makes you who you are? And the thing that's going to prepare you the best is to be able to do something subconsciously. And so if you're constantly worrying about and thinking about catching and throwing or picking up ground balls the right way, you're not going to be able to adjust the speed of the game as you get further and further on in your career. So I think the best thing anybody can do right now is work on your individual skills. And again, there's a ton of different videos out there that people can watch on what they can do to improve their skills. Playing wall ball, working on ground balls in your own in the backyard. You know, you don't need somebody to catch them to have a catch with. All you need is a wall, preferably with no windows around it, a stick, some balls, and your gloves, and that's all you need. And you can just simply doing that, you can become a tremendous lacrosse player, because your skill is that we call them our 20% skills, and focusing more time on those 20% skills are going to allow you to do the 80% of the game, play the 80% of the game a lot better and more free. And so figuring out what your 20% skills are and working on those consistently is what you can do as an individual, whether you're in college or whether you're looking to play in college. That's what's going to make you the best player once you get there. Because who knows what's going to happen this summer with club lacrosse and with lacrosse. Guys are going to have to try to figure out new ways to get better. And that's the one thing you can do is work on yourself, work on your individual skills, work on the fundamentals.
Yeah, Megan, one of the fundamentals of getting into Sacred Heart University and becoming a Division I athlete is a NC2A clearinghouse. Can you explain what that is to the viewer on what a prospective athlete needs to do NC2A wise?
So NCAA has registration for all prospective student athletes. Division III has a profile account, and then Division II and I has what we call a certification account. And you have to register for it, sending in your transcripts and test scores to it once you become, if you register early on after your junior year, you send in your transcripts once, and then you send in a final one as a senior. And that would allow the NCAA to review your academics and certify you. They also look at students from an amateurism standpoint. Most students that are domestic, coming straight out of high school, don't have too many issues. But some international students and students that repeat years or go PG might run into some issues in that space. But I think the NCAA has done a great job from an eligibility standpoint for the current senior class and how COVID-19 is really affecting them from an academic standpoint, and has made some allowances in there. And hopefully in the next few days, student accounts from prospective student athletes at the NCAA will start making some changes, and we'll be able to see what that looks like.
And what we really want to know what it's going to look like is the financial well-being of our athletic department and our university. And for those who ask the question, what might you be able to do to help out? Well, Mike Morrison who works in our development department for all of our teams in our athletic department, is trying to put programs together to help support the university and support some of these returning athletes that we have no budget for an extra $500,000 worth of scholarships. And remember that the majority of our NCAA contribution to our university comes from the basketball tournament that didn't happen this year. So there's a shortfall there also. So we are going to be asked to spend more and we're receiving less athletically. So anything that the alumni and the matching fund corporation situations that are out there, anything that creative people can think about doing to help out is totally needed and will truly be appreciated. You know, we've gone for an hour here, team, and Gianna and Kim, Meg and John, I think you were spectacular guests. I think that the information was really informative, and that's what it's supposed to be. I think our viewers had a good time, and all I could say is thank you for everything you're doing. And Gianna, you know, we're always going to be there for you. We want you to always be there for us because you've been a major part these last 4 years, and we want you to continue to be a major part of our university. Coaches, Meg, thanks for what you do. Please, everyone, stay safe, enjoy, be healthy. It's going to get better. Gray skies are already clearing up here in Stanford, so put on a happy face. Take care.
Thanks, Bobby.
Thanks, Bob.
Thank you.